Okay, so let me begin with something that most people are not talking about, and the silence around this particular dynamic is actually quite revealing. You have the President of the United States on a call with the Prime Minister of Israel using expletives, telling him he is crazy, telling him that he would be in prison without American support. That is not a sign of strength. That is not a sign of a coherent strategy. That is a sign of desperation. And here's what I want you to understand. This moment tells us something far deeper about how American power actually works in the multipolar world that is emerging right now. I am Professor Jiang, and on this channel, we decode power shifts before the headlines catch up. Subscribe, hit the bell, and stay locked in, because what I am about to explain reveals a fundamental weakness in how the United States conducts its foreign policy in 2025. Let me set the stage. Trump wanted a deal with Iran, not because he loves Iran, not because he believes in the nuclear agreement, but because a deal with Iran is strategically valuable to the United States right now. It reduces tensions in the Middle East. It frees up American military resources. It signals to China that America can still manage its regional relationships. But here is the problem. Netanyahu does not want a deal with Iran. Netanyahu wants to keep the region in a state of perpetual crisis, because a region in crisis is a region where Israel remains indispensable to American strategy. So what does Netanyahu do? He escalates. He launches a massive bombing campaign in Lebanon. He kills civilians. He targets buildings to take out single Hezbollah commanders. And in doing so, he forces Trump's hand. He makes it impossible for Trump to negotiate with Iran, because Iran sees the escalation and says, why should we negotiate when Israel is bombing our allies? Now, let me explain the mechanism here, because this is where it gets very interesting. There is a concept in strategic studies that we call the alliance trap. It works like this. When a smaller power has leverage over a larger power, because the larger power depends on the smaller power for regional stability, the smaller power can essentially blackmail the larger power into supporting its preferred strategy. Israel has mastered this. Netanyahu has mastered this. And Trump, despite all his talk about being a great deal maker, has walked right into it. Think about what happened. Trump sent a message to Iran saying he wanted to negotiate. Iran was skeptical but willing to listen. Then Netanyahu escalates in Lebanon. Iran sees this and says, we are not negotiating while Israel is bombing. Trump gets on the phone with Netanyahu and tells him he is crazy. But here's the thing. Trump cannot actually force Netanyahu to do anything. Why? Because Israel has the support of Congress. Israel has the support of the American media establishment. Israel has the support of the defense contractors. Netanyahu knows this, so he ignores Trump. He continues the escalation, and Trump is left looking weak. Let me be transparent with you about what is actually happening here. This is not a failure of Trump's negotiating skills. This is a structural problem in how American alliances work. When you have a client state that has more leverage over you than you have over it, you have a problem. And that is exactly the situation America finds itself in with Israel right now. Let me take you back to a historical parallel that illuminates this dynamic. In the 1950s, Britain faced a similar situation with Egypt under Gamal Abdel Nasser. Britain wanted to maintain control of the Suez Canal. Egypt wanted to nationalize it. Britain tried to use its military superiority to force Egypt's hand. But Nasser had leverage that Britain did not expect. He had the support of the Soviet Union. He had the support of the Arab world. He had the support of international opinion. And when Britain tried to use force, the entire world turned against Britain. The Suez Crisis of 1956 marked the moment when everyone realized that British power in the Middle East was finished. Britain was forced to withdraw. And the lesson was this: military superiority alone cannot sustain an empire when the political and strategic environment has shifted against you. America is facing a similar moment right now. It has military superiority, it has economic power, but it does not have the political leverage it once had. Israel knows this, Netanyahu knows this, and he is exploiting it. Okay, now I want to address something directly. I am not saying that Trump should abandon Israel. I am not saying that America should withdraw from the Middle East. What I am saying is that the current structure of the American-Israeli alliance is unsustainable. It gives Israel too much leverage. It prevents America from pursuing its own strategic interests. And it is making America look weak. Here is the deeper question. If Trump cannot control Netanyahu, how can he control anything? If he cannot force a smaller power to follow his preferred strategy, what does that say about American power in a multipolar world? This is not about Trump personally. This is about the structural decline of American hegemony. And Netanyahu is exploiting that decline. Let me shift now to the implications of this dynamic. If Trump cannot negotiate with Iran because Netanyahu keeps escalating, then the Middle East remains in a state of perpetual crisis. That means American military resources remain tied up in the region. That means American attention remains focused on the Middle East instead of on China, which is America's real strategic competitor. And that means America is playing exactly the game that China wants it to play. This is what strategic analysts call the strategy of exhaustion. You do not have to defeat your adversary directly. You just have to keep them busy dealing with other problems while you build your own power. And that is exactly what is happening right now. China is building its Belt and Road Initiative. China is deepening its relationships with Russia, with Iran, with the Arab states. And America is stuck dealing with the Netanyahu problem. Okay, let me bring this all together. The call between Trump and Netanyahu is not a sign of Trump's strength. It is a sign of American weakness. It reveals that America can no longer simply impose its will on its allies. It reveals that the structure of American power has shifted, and it reveals that in a multipolar world, even the superpower has to negotiate, has to compromise, and sometimes has to accept outcomes it does not prefer. This is the part I want you to focus on. The era of American unilateralism is over. We are not in a moment of American decline in the sense that America is becoming weak. America is still the most powerful country in the world. But America is no longer the only power that matters. And that changes everything about how American foreign policy has to work. The real question now is this. Can Trump adapt to this new reality? Can he accept that he cannot simply impose his will on Israel? Can he find a way to negotiate with Iran that does not depend on Israeli compliance? Or will he continue to pursue strategies that require a level of control over events that he simply does not have? I want you to question everything I am saying. Do your own research. Look at the reporting from Axios. Look at what the administration officials are saying. But pay attention to the structure of this conflict, not just the surface drama. The surface drama is Trump yelling at Netanyahu. The structural reality is that American power is being constrained by its own alliances, and that is a much more significant story. I am Professor Jiang. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and understand that the world is being reshaped right now by forces that most people are not even paying attention to.